Welcome to the Jaybefaunt channel. I am your host, James Fauntleroy. It is good to see you all this afternoon on Tuesday, March 15th, 2022. The Jaybefaunt show is also available on all major podcast platforms like Anchor, Apple, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, so you can subscribe there. I'm part of the Revolutionary Blackout Network, so you can find me on the JB Show on Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on RBN, and you can catch me on the roundtables on Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Oh my gosh. JB, get it together, man. Please make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Well, after that, I don't think you're going to give me a thumbs up, but if you do, it'll be generous of you. But if you're new to the channel, please also subscribe. I don't know why you will subscribe, but whatever. And please, if you do subscribe, then I promise you cookies, maybe some THC brownies, maybe some Tootsie Pops, Blow Pops, Laffy Taffies. I don't know. It's the thought that counts, right? If I can. I just want to give a shout out to my patrons on Patreon and also my patrons on Coffee. Thank you so much for your support, and know that I am always deeply humbled. And it really does touch my heart, the fact that people are willing to contribute something to help me keep the lights on, so to speak. So I appreciate your contribution. And if you guys would like to, then all the links are posted in the crawl here, the Chiron. So if you guys would like the links to the Patreon, they're there, as well as the description below. Glory Jones. Oh my goodness. I just did that off key. I planned to do it on key, and I did it.
It's all good.
That's it. The show's over. I'm just.
Oh no.
And you know what? It's just, I cannot believe that I am this out of sorts today. I don't know why. Maybe
because it's the Ides of March.
But Glory Jones is an activist, political commentator, and advocate out of California, and she is with the MCSC network. Yeah. Holla at your boy. And she is also part of the show Slow News Day. Miss Glory.
Yeah.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right.
That's so good. Good to see you. And so I just like to say hello to everybody in the chat. We are a very interactive program. Terry Connolly, good to see you. Also good to see Lucky Burrito.
What's good, Lucky?
You. Lucky Burrito. She got the queso. Okay. And Gary says he gives a quote from RFK. Each time someone stands up for an ideal or acts to improve the lot of others or strikes out against injustice, they send forth a tiny ripple of hope. Thank you so much for that. That is actually a very beautiful quote, by the way.
Yeah, that's good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. See, the people who watch me, don't you just love them? All right. So I just wanted to start off with my first question. So you're a political commentator and activist. Can you give us a brief summary in how you got into that and what inspired you to move into the independent media space?
How I got into activism, really. I still am, but I was always a massive history nerd and nerd in general, but history nerd especially. And so foreign policy and the interactions of different cultures, different ethnicities was something that always fascinated me, and it's what led me to have kind of an innate interest in foreign policy and international relations. So I kind of started following politics from that aspect. And then because of that, I also got more interested in the environment, being a massive marine science nerd as well. And also I started to do a bit of activism surrounding like elections, but like not like electoral politics, but like elections specifically, because I'm from Broward County, Florida, specifically Florida's 23rd district, which is probably one of the worst places to vote if you want your vote to count. So I did some activism surrounding that. I remember I was doing like, text banking and phone banking to help get Amendment 4 passed in Florida in 2018, I believe that was. Wow, that's a while ago now. But yeah, and then from there, I just started getting more and more involved in politics, specifically once I got into college. I got very involved in the Tulsi Gabbard campaign. I was volunteering for that, particularly because she spoke of so many issues that I just naturally advocated for as a part of volunteering for the campaign, specifically when it came to foreign policy, being anti-imperialist, trying to resurrect or I guess save the environment, trying to guard that. And also a big one for me is freedom for Julian Assange. So in having sort of like a channel to be able to advocate for those causes, once she dropped out, it was like, okay, I'm gonna just keep going with this whole thing. So and this is like 2020, so I only got more and more involved in in all these various causes that I was passionate about. And fast forward to, I believe it was September or October of 2020. I had already gone on like a couple shows, maybe 3 or 4 times. I had gone on Nico's show. I had gone on Nico with the MCSC. I had gone on Frank Analysis, and I'd been on a couple of Convo Couch interviews. But I wasn't actually like in indie media really. I was just someone who watched it a lot, and I was like mod for a couple of channels. So fast forward September of 2020, and I'm a mod for Slow News Day. And Steve Poikinen, he goes, oh, I want to do a panel with all my chat mods. So I just so happened to come on his show when he was inviting on mods. And, we had, it was like an amazing show, amazing mod panel that we had on Slow News Day. And, fast forward like an hour after the stream ends, and I get a DM from Steve that says, hey, how would you feel about co-hosting with me a couple of times a month? And I'm like, sure, I'm down. And from there, I got involved in Slow News Day. I've been a co-host on there for over a year now. What is it, like a year and a half now, probably? And yeah, like having a genuinely awesome time over there. I love that show. Like it's a fucking kick-ass show. Y'all should just check it out. After being in Slow News Day, I started going on even more shows. Shout out Lucky Burrito in the chat, because I've been on her show. And I've started like getting on to more and more shows. And then Slow News Day would then become a part of MCSC Network, which is just awesome. They're all fam. Shout out everyone in MCSC Network. Every grow and kill it. And then I think throughout that, I've just kind of like maintained my activism through all of that, just because with me, I really see an outlet as really another outlet for my activism at the end of the day. So yeah, that's kind of a summary of that.
That's pretty cool. How you started out as someone who was deeply engrossed in history. And I know you heard this phrase many times before, but but the old adage goes that those who study history don't study history are doomed to repeat it. And
I absolutely believe that. I mean, you're seeing it right now, like in full force with Ukraine and Russia. It's
mhm,
like because you have so many people acting like the Russian military operation into Ukraine happened in a complete vacuum with zero context whatsoever as to NATO's aggression in the area and the funding of neo-Nazis in Ukraine and the problem and the Nazi problem that Ukraine has, because
yeah,
people are acting like the whole event happened in a vacuum. Regardless of that, it's going to happen again. So
yeah. And, you know, when you try to tell people about the history of things, they have this denial because of the brainwashing, aka propaganda, that has, engulfed our nation, especially. And it's by uh, institutions that have been, basically the standard bearers of information for time immemorial. And people think that they are infallible or that they are completely trustworthy without any scrutiny, without do any scrutiny. And looking at, for instance, there was an episode in Rising a few months ago with um, Ryan Grimm and Emily Jasinski. Gosh, I'm terrible at pronouncing sometimes. But there was an episode with them where Ryan Grimm had to correct Emily Jasinski on the fact that the Soviets, aka the commies, were the ones that defeated the Nazis. And she was adamant that, well, the United States were the ones that beat them. And it's like, in a fight of 100 punches, the United States got 3 punches in out of 100.
yeah,
The other
yeah.
97 were the Nazis. I'm sorry, what were the oh my gosh.
We're the Soviets.
Were the Soviets, were the commies. They were the ones that got the 97 punches in. And so when you tell people this, they're like, but no, but communism is bad. It's like, who told you that it was bad? And in what way did they say that it was bad? And so when people do not study history, which I'm trying to do more of so that I don't repeat things, you are, yes, doomed to repeat it because you have the same motivations of people from back then that are today that are trying to control the world, a nation, a people. And so, therefore, really, there's nothing really new under the sun that they haven't done before. It's just they're doing it differently with technology.
Yeah. I mean, you see the same thing happening in a sense with something like colonization, which, you have a lot of neocolonialism that existed throughout the late 20th century,
Mhm.
even though people didn't see the very real invasions and boots on the ground that happened in countries around the global south. But now, what's happening with colonization is you're seeing a lot of it happen digitally, and that's
Mhm.
something that we've been covering a lot on a slow news day with the fourth industrial revolution, is the
Yeah.
digital colonization of a lot of countries in the global south with something like Facebook. I mean, like anybody who has family outside of the west, or maybe or outside of like maybe prominent states in the east, that the only way to contact like 98% of your family is through WhatsApp or through Facebook. I mean, like for instance, I had to download WhatsApp just for my birthday because that was the only way that that almost all my family on my dad's side, which is Jamaican, would reach me effectively. So stuff like that. And then it escalates into plans like the Two Africa Initiative, which seeks to encircle most of the Middle East and the entire continent of Africa with a giant subsea cable. as a means to bridge the digital gap. There's going to be a lot of rhetoric. There's going to be a lot of rhetoric concerning bridging the digital app, despite the fact that a lot of the African continent is still dealing with problems of war and imperialism and exploitation via mining or smuggling or other things such as that. But yeah, we're going to see going into the future, we're going to see a lot of, obviously the traditional mechanisms of imperialism and colonialism are still going to play out, but now we're going to see them in a digital realm. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like the article that came out from Reuters that talked about how um you can say extremely dangerous things online in regards to Russia. They're actually allowing hate speech for Russians. And it's sad because it's when you start to compromise your values in things like this, then you're willing to compromise your values for other people too. If they are willing to allow this for Russians, then who's to say that they won't start allowing this for other people? This is a slippery slope, and it's just like, look at all the businesses that supported Nazi Germany. There's a bunch of them. There's, oh my God, what's it called? Mercedes Benz.
Mercedes,
There was Porsche.
General Motors.
Yeah. In fact, Henry Ford was a huge fan of Adolf Hitler. So, and so it's just we're at a point right now where we're seeing things go back to the way it was almost 100 years ago. Who said it? Oh, wait, is it? Was it him? No. Someone said, and please, anybody in the chat or you, Glory, please let me know who said it. They said that history doesn't always repeat itself, but it does rhyme.
It rhymes. I know the quote, but I don't know who said it.
Okay. But it rhymes a lot. And when you see this, you're going to see businesses and companies that are going to side essentially with fascism. And these companies, a lot of times, they're headed by one or person and just a bunch of shareholders, because it's all about capitalism and money. And they just do not give a regard for human life, excuse me, unless it is tied to capital, unless it's tied to money. And so, in watching the way the world is shifting, I feel like a lot of us are now looking back to the people who actually made change, and we're like, okay, they're doing this old bullshit again. So how do we combat that? We have to look back to the people who combated them in the first place and won. So we're going to have to look at, the communist parties of back then. We're going to have to look at the socialist parties of back then. We're going to have to look at the revolutionaries and what they did, because really nothing has changed. The strategy is still the same. So therefore, whatever worked for them in the past has to work for us here in the future.
Yeah. And I mean to add to that, I think as well, you do need to also try, continue to try new things, because like you said, it rhymes, but it's not exactly the same, but also because in this day and age, there's so many mechanisms of co-option, and that's been exposed thoroughly with COINTELPRO, with the massive amount of research done into the nonprofit industrial complex. You have activism being way too overrun by the white savior complex. and the white savior complex being something that is historical but manifests itself today in activism, unfortunately. So I definitely think you have to be able to be wary of those, and I think that's the job of independent media, is to really educate people on that, and to really educate people on history as well, because it's also not just even if you're not communist or socialist, it's not just communist or socialist parties which experienced victories, which experienced wins against an empire. You have examples going back into history, like the Maroons in Jamaica, for instance. I mean, Prime Minister Holness is a neoliberal shithead, and I don't like at all the neoliberal state and government of Jamaica right now. But even though they are facing encroachment onto their territories and threats from the government, Maroon communities in Jamaica still exist to this day, and the conditions within those Maroon communities in Jamaica are quite preferable to a lot of other living situations around the Caribbean. And that's because it dates back to how they were able to fight for their sovereignty against slave masters, and maintain that to this day by staying, within mountains, growing their own food, having their own communities and strongholds like that. So, and obviously I'm half Jamaican, so I'm gonna bring that up. But I really think that's something else that we can learn with. And there's also many examples throughout history of groups fighting for and winning their own sovereignty, and then being able to maintain their own communities that way. And I think that there's I think that there's an incredible knowledge and empowerment that can be had from learning something like that, and taking those lessons from people that came before us, from people that came before us, and from people that essentially fought the same forces that we're fighting now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can you give us a glimpse? I know you talked about you studying history and how you got into that, but the things that you studied, what hit you the hardest and was like, yeah, the conservatives, they just don't have it. The liberals, y'all definitely don't have it. I'm going left. What made you go, as Beyonce said, to the left, to the left? Sorry, that was a corny joke.
Yeah,
if you guys want to cancel me for making a corny joke, it's okay. I understand.
I'm trying to, because there are a couple things that I can point out, but I can't narrow it down to one single thing. But I can definitely say what shaped me ideologically wise was learning about, in particular, the history of the Caribbean, and not just Jamaica, but learning about the history of the Caribbean, going from the era. I don't know if I'm saying their name right, so I have to say their Spanish name. I apologize. The Taínos and the Kalingo, learning about them, and then going into colonization and genocide with Columbus, and then going forward into the slave rebellions and the Maroons, and then learning forward to continuing neocolonialism that exists today. I think that's definitely one of the things that shaped my viewpoint, especially because that history is essentially what brought me here onto this planet. I think, and then two more big things I'd say were learning about the history of the Congo, because not enough people know what Leopold II did to that region. And it's really something to see people brush over the crimes that happen in the Congo to this day because of the legacy left by Leopold II, while going and comparing while going and choosing to compare Putin to Hitler. Like, I'm sorry, there's anybody else in history you're going to compare to Hitler, it's got to be King Leopold II. So that learning about that and just like the crimes, the utter crimes against humanity perpetrated by Leopold's reign, I think that's something that shaped me into being anti-colonialism, anti-imperialist especially. And then I'd say another big thing with me was reading COINTELPRO documents and finding the memo where they say we can't let them have a Black Messiah. We can't let the Black nationalists rise. We have to prevent that. We have to do all of that. And then there was another memo. I don't think it was COINTELPRO because it was actually from the then CIA director of operations, Richard Helms, I believe, where he said, we can surveil Malcolm X during his trip in Africa. I'm hesitant to kill American citizens, but we'll explore options to neutralize him. And then later on, by Malcolm X's own account, there's a story in which he got poisoned in a hotel in Cairo, and he recalls almost recognizing one of the people in Cairo as an agent that he saw in New York, I believe. So that was one of the things that really radicalized me to be against the surveillance state and come to this like grim realization, which kind of shapes my activism in that we can't have any leaders. They don't want us to have any leaders. They won't let us have any leaders. So that kind of shaped my views on decentralized activism and decentralized societies, and especially in thinking of not having any leaders, not having any martyrs, because I don't want any more martyrs. I mean, that's why a lot of my activism also centers around political prisoners, because don't want any martyrs. I don't want Julian Assange to become a martyr. I don't want Commander X to become a martyr. Don't want Ruchelle McGee here in Los Angeles to become a martyr. Don't want Mumia to become a martyr. Don't want any other political prisoners to be martyred as a result of this system. So those are some things that I studied that I can say had an impact on me. And honestly, there's way more too, but yeah, those are the main things that first came to my mind.
Yeah, that's one thing I learned, particularly for me, is that when you begin to truly love humanity, that's when you become anti-colonialist. That's when you can become anti-imperialist, because you recognize that just by chance you could have been born in that same country and have gone through the same things that those people have gone through, and you would want someone to care someplace else that is not in that same position. And you cannot tell me, when you see someone suffering, that you just say, yeah, no, you know, it just has to be done. It is what it is. Like, no. You literally have to dehumanize people in your mind and heart in order for that to happen.
Yeah.
My question to people is, if I showed you a cute baby and you smile, why do you smile? And then someone would say, well, the kid is cute. But what does that kid represent? That child represents all the possibilities, all the good things that can come, through into the world, you know, and yet you can sit there and go, yeah, but it's okay that they were massacred and killed because we had to get rid of insert dictator or dictatorial body that is, only going up against the United States probably because they don't want someone to take over their land because stripping them of their resources. Never mind that, but so this is one of the reasons why I am a big proponent of recognizing the human value in everyone. Because if you recognize the human value in everyone, then war is a nightmare to you. And yeah, and so I think I kind of came to the same conclusion as you, just from a different aspect. You went more of the historical academic aspect, and I kind of came to it. I also came through somewhat historically and academically too, but I also came through from an aspect of just thinking, you know, in those shoes, and I think we all have to do like these and kind of intersections, not just historically and academically, but also empathetically, and that's how we come to the conclusion that we've come to.
I absolutely agree with that because I'm an empath myself, and my God, it sucks sometimes because
Mhm.
like you literally like drive yourself to tears thinking about it, and it's like
Mhm.
sometimes you get like sometimes I'm just like fuck's sake, like let me take their place, not so I can be a martyr, but just so I can like alleviate their suffering. Like
Yeah,
that's sometimes what I think just in being an empath and like I, I don't know. It's definitely something I see lacking, unfortunately. It's just basic empathy. Yeah,
yeah,
Lucky Burrito knows the struggle.
yeah. It's interesting, and I wanted to tell this story, especially after what Lucky Burrito just said and what you just said. And it kind of reminds me of when this was during the Trump administration. Was it during the Trump administration? Yeah, it was during the Trump administration. And you remember all the hoopla that was going on. The liberals were up in arms about the concentration camps at the border.
Mm,
And you had people crying about it. Rachel Maddow crying on camera for the first time, which, by the way, I honestly think was a show. And even if it wasn't, it just shows how deadened she is to the liberal, President Biden. Anyways, they showed raw video. These weren't kids. These weren't women. These were grown men. And they were bawling, crying in tears. And they were saying, "Where is my baby?" They were saying, "We don't eat much. We can't because we're worried. We haven't showered in 40 days. I want to know where my baby is." Patriarchy is a fucked up thing
yeah.
because it makes us think that we men can't be nurturers and we can't care about it. We don't care about our kids as much as women.
Hmm.
When in reality, we care just as much.
Absolutely.
And then they take that and then make it seem like, oh, well, these just are men and they don't care and they were just putting their kids in danger when really they were leaving and fleeing a dangerous situation to protect their children. And now they were separated from those same children that they were trying to protect. If you rip a child out of a father's arms, or an uncle's arms, or a grandfather's arms, or their older siblings' arms, you fuck them up. That's what you did. And now they are at an emotionally traumatic position, and they're like, where is my kid? They're ready to bust that plexiglass down. And the crazy part is, I was literally tearing up and crying looking at these men. And yet, people went back to sleep as soon as Biden became president.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, where are the tears for those same people now? They don't exist. Because they were used as basically the, look at this little birdie over here, until then Biden comes in, and then they're like, what concentration camps? What people at the border? Oh, you mean the illegals? So when it comes to looking at humanity, you have to see yourself in them. If not, you become a sociopath. So I said all that to basically agree with you.
Yeah, no, I agree though. And I mean, it's like the same thing happening now with Ukraine. It's like, oh, so y'all go and have all these tears and all this fame and all this, and all this empathy for the Caucasians, but when worse happens in Yemen and the Middle East and Africa and the Horn of Africa and South America and the Caribbean, it's just crickets.
Yeah. And I don't think we're saying that you shouldn't have empathy for people who are in Ukraine. That's not what
Absolutely, yes. Yeah.
what we're saying is, keep that same energy for people who are in the countries that are nearer to the equator.
Mm-hmm. Keep
Just
that same energy and don't let, the institutionalized propaganda determine, you know,
yeah,
when and for whom do
yeah,
you have empathy.
yeah,
Because obviously a lot of this is coming because the media is giving it so much attention as opposed to other issues.
yeah.
So the response to that is, don't let the media especially one so corrupt that's just propaganda,
Mhm.
as is Western media, as is the revolving door between intelligence and media and academia, as is all of that. Don't let that determine when you should have empathy for people.
Yeah. There is no time limit for empathy. There is no limit for empathy. That's the way I.
Yeah.
Um. So, what is some advice that you would give to people who want to venture into this space, particularly those of us who are Black, brown, and even female? Because there's not enough of you in this space, I think.
Um I I'd say that you can always just start kind of little by little. You don't have to go all into it. Get a full studio and then make sure that your podcast is promoted on Twitter, pay for some promotion on Fedbook, or like you don't have to go all in at once, but just do it little by little, and then eventually you'll get there. And then you are going to run into troubles, unfortunately. Being Black or brown or being a woman, you're just going to
Yeah.
be ignored. um you're going to be ignored, and then oftentimes, it's funny because this was something that I didn't realize was a thing until I got into Slow News Day and MCSC. Was and you're going to feel crazy for this, but there are going to be people that are going to watch you, but they're going to watch you so they can steal your ideas, and they're going to inevitably water them down. And they're going to give you no credit whatsoever for that. So they're going to take all your watered down ideas without actually uplifting the person saying the real shit. And it's going to, and like, I used to think I was crazy when like I would see people that follow me without giving me any shout outs repeating some of the same shit I would say a day earlier, but with like so much watered down bullshit. I used to go crazy. I used to be like, nah, this can't be happening. Like, really? Like, are they really doing that? But then, I meet Nico and Steve and Fee and Johnny, and they're like, oh yeah, they're totally doing that 100%. They do that to us all the time. And I'm like, oh, so I'm not crazy. So you're going, so yes, it's gonna drive you crazy at times to be either ignored or to be either vilified in such an unfair fashion. And it's going to drive you crazy to see white men who do the exact same thing that who do a quarter or a third of the exact same stuff that you do get uplifted way more in a fashion that would be detrimental to spreading truth, to actually helping a movement. And it's gonna drive you crazy, but luckily we're here to tell you you're not crazy. I promise you, you're not alone in it, and we're gonna fucking punch our way through.
Uncle JB is right behind you, people. You know what? I know exactly how that feels, because someone pretty prominent in the indie media space used a phrase that I used, and I had put it up on Twitter. And I used to be subscribed to this person. I never heard them say this ever before in my life. I started using the phrase diet Republicans for Democrats. Next thing you know, this person is using it like a couple months down the line. Meaning that they probably saw my tweet and were like, oh, that's cool. And then they used it in theirs, but they never gave me credit for it. I had never heard from this person. This person never followed me or anything. So I know what you mean. And it's something small. It's not that significant. But when it comes to what you're saying, there's a lot of that goes on. And there's also some, look, I'm a stand behind, my friend Sabby. There's some blacklisting going on. And there's some gatekeeping going on in this space.
Absolutely.
And there are people who consider themselves to be on the left, but yet there's not one bit of solidarity that goes on. And for those of us who are in disenfranchised communities, there needs to be a coming together instead of a splitting apart. And treating this space in a capitalistic way while trying to make yourself seem like you're anti-capitalist, your actions speak louder than your words. So people need to, because once you get into this space, you start to realize some people can do some shady shit. And some of us will ask questions, well, why haven't this person come on? Why hasn't this person come on your program? Or why haven't that person? Or why haven't they had you on? And you just go, because people treat it in a capitalistic way. There's no, it's like grease my palms and I'll grease yours rather than cooperation, collaboration. I just wanted to throw that in there as an exclamation point to what you just said.
It happens a lot, unfortunately, in this space. And there's, man, I don't want to air anyone's business out, but Slow Doomsday and MCSC have definitely been blacklisted by certain individuals that have quite heralded positions in this indie media space, and for the purpose of me being on someone else's show for the first time, I won't reveal who, but if you know me and Steve, you can probably guess who, honestly. But yeah.
So come into this space, but also make sure that you hear from people. I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to the audience. Make sure that you talk to the people that are being disparaged and see where they're at from the horse's mouth instead of listening to other people, because you'd be surprised what you find out. Because I am really glad that I actually had Nico on my show now. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and we're here. It's gonna drive you crazy, but just know that you're not alone.
Yeah.
To the detriment, to my own detriment sometimes, because I do receive the occasional insults, racism, and threats from script kiddies that aren't going to do shit. I do keep my DMs open, so if you ever need to reach out, then I might get to it. Then I'll get to it eventually. So yes, you're not alone. I promise.
Yeah. So what is one of the biggest learning curves you had to learn when becoming a content creator?
I don't even know. That's honestly a hard question to answer, because I feel like doing journalism naturally kind of flowed into my activism. So I wouldn't say there's many things that I had to learn, especially being on such a good program like Slow News Day, where we're already activists, where journalism is just already a part of our activism, and we use journalism as an outlet for that. Maybe I don't know. Well,
Are you
Publix
trying
would.
to tell me you woke up like this? Are you trying to
I
say
guess so.
some of us just have it? We're just born with it. I'm sorry, JB, but you just have to learn. I'm a natural. You had to learn school.
No.
I'm sorry, but
I'm you know what it is? You know what it is? Not only has like public speaking always kind of come easy to me,
Mhm,
but again, I'm gonna big up my show, the show I'm on again, Slow News Day.
mhm,
Like it's not a super strict program. Like it's not something where I have to hold back or anything, or where I have to worry about not
mhm.
cussing, or where I have to worry about, not being so awkward and
Yeah,
and giving the most like awkward intros and outros. Like it's not one of those uptight programs where you have to have a stick up your ass for everything. Like it was like
yeah.
part of the reason why it was genuinely easy for me is because Slow News Day is a great program. But yes, also to some degree, I am decent at public
It's
speaking.
nature, baby, not nurture.
Yeah.
Nature, baby, nature. Keep it natural. All right, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop. No, I'm not. All right, so I'm so stupid. Why do y'all come here and watch my? Why do y'all? Why
Yeah.
these people come in? Why
But
are you
listen,
here
but
right
listen, when you get into this space, be yourself. And if someone's like making you suppress that, then fuck them.
now? Yeah. Just like Mr. Wolf Blitzer with his weirdly flesh-colored beard. Like, come on, man. Smile. Um, okay, so hypothetical question. You are Madam President Jones, and it is January 20th, your inauguration day. What are the first 3 actions you're taking as president within your first 100 days? I know.
Okay. Okay, how do I say this the right way? I'm abolishing the entire prison system. I'm abolishing the CIA and all intelligence agencies. And I am, and then I am, how do I say this the right? Because I'm working on getting reparations to the entire global South, but the rest of the Western countries got to be involved in that. So I got to figure out a way to do that. But yeah, and then I'll just go ahead and abolish the rest of the United States of America too.
Okay. All right. Land back here, people. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What's something that you're going to double down on this year? Because everybody talks about, oh, I want to change this. I'm like, no, what are you keeping and you're solidifying and you're like, I'm going to double down on this?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because I'd honestly say that about like every part of my activism. Like I just like to go even more into it. I definitely love to double down on my environmental activism, because something that's going to happen soon, which doesn't get enough coverage at all, but it's going to happen soon with the increase in demand for electric vehicles and electric vehicle batteries and like 5G communications infrastructure or data centers and such, is there's going to be a higher demand for rare earth minerals. And unfortunately, a lot of that is either going to come from mining around the global South, or it's going to come from mining the bottom of the ocean. And there's a whole process that's actually being carried out now to try and establish an effective mining code. They've already given out exploration contracts to tons of countries and companies, and soon the International Seabed Authority is going to give out exploitation contracts, which is for mining. So something that I'd love to double down on is like my environmental activism in general, but also I tend to go hard on trying to raise awareness of the seabed mining that's to come. I'd love to turn that into like more activism. I'm definitely going to double down on activism for Julian Assange. Fuck's sake, if he comes to America, I don't want to say anything, but like y'all motherfuckers won't sleep. But yeah, there's that. I'd definitely doubling down on anti-war activism, anti-imperialist activism, doubling down on the media sphere, being able to educate more people on what's happening. And yeah, yeah, but yeah, I'd say doubling down on nearly like every aspect of my activism, honestly.
Because you were born like that.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I brought that back around. Maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's activism.
Oh my God.
So I know I'm getting all the corny jokes that I can out today because they won't let me do it at RBN. They're too cool for it.
No, it's okay. I'm corny joke friendly. So like one of my friends, shout out band Refugee, he's an electrician and he tells horrible dad jokes all the time.
Oh, there's some good dad jokes too. I think Noelle D is really into dad jokes too, because we talked about it. So shout out to Noelle D in the chat too. Gosh, this is a great conversation. Okay. Fun questions. What is one food that you can't live without? Oh, she's like, oh no. Why'd you put me in this position, JV?
Okay. I'm going to narrow it down to a culture at least. I'm going to narrow it down to Jamaican food. I am going to say that I can't live without. This hurts so much. I fuck's sake. um I can't live without ackee and saltfish. I'm gonna say that.
A what?
National ackee and saltfish. It's the national dish of Jamaica. Um, it's salted cod mixed with akis, which is like this fruit. And I don't know how to describe it, but it's really buttery and it's got the consistency of like a really soft egg. And then you mix it in
Oh,
with like tomatoes and peppers and thyme and some really good seasoning and you know onions too, and then you serve it with some like plantain and festival and yellow yam, and so good. I can't live
oh.
without it.
She came in with something that I've never heard before. Might have to try this. Oh, by the way, I had hummus for the first time over the weekend.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, okay, so I was with a friend, and he put out, the jar of hummus, and I'm like, because I'm like, no collard greens, no mashed potatoes, no ham hocks, you know what I'm saying? He brought out the hummus with the nan chips. I'm like, and then he was like, just try it. So I took a nan chip, took it. At first it was cold. I'm like, But then I'm like, And then my taste bud said, hey, do that again. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna do that again. So I went in. My taste bud said, hey, I like that.
Good hummus is really good.
And so then I took another one and another one and another one. Oh my goodness. I was like, is this what kids have been doing? It's amazing. Like, I'm like, I need to try more stuff. I gotta try. So now, whatever you just said, I don't know. It sounded like some good shit. Whatever you said, I want to try that too. I need to get out to California. I gotta get out there.
You actually might be better off finding Jamaican food in Florida.
I gotta try it. I just gotta try it. JB
Yeah.
broke though for right
I
now.
recommend Jamaican food for everyone. It's the best food. We call it yard food because most of the ingredients come from your yard. And it's amazing and it's good for you. And it's the reason why we have the best track and field runners. Usain Bolt, Jamaican, eats ackee and saltfish for breakfast. And yeah.
Okay. Well, I just got educated. Thank you. This is gonna be good. Ooh, my mom may like it too because my mom took a trip to Jamaica years and years and years ago. She probably already knows about it. Knowing her, she knows a lot of stuff.
Nice.
Yeah. What's your favorite curse word?
Cunt.
Even I don't say that one. The opinions of the Jaybefaunt channel are not the opinions of those of Glory Jones. Woo, she came in with the spice. I'm like, oh,
that one I ain't have to think about that much.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Bill Bradley said Brits and Aussies love that one. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I Miguel, don't you get I'm not reading that. You're not going to get me in trouble. No, 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 no. Mm-mm. But that's funny. Okay, so serious question. Let me make sure this. Hang on. Stop. Um, what is your? Let me rephrase it. You've lived a long life. You're
Not
on your
really.
deathbed.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, this is a
No,
hypothetical.
you
Okay.
live a long life, child. You live a long one. Starting to sound like some really really old person. Anyways, and you're reflecting on your life. What is the one thought that you want people to remember about you?
Ah, shit. Um, what? I, I just want people. Let's see. How would I? I don't want to say. I don't want to like. Yeah, I don't. I don't. Okay, if people are gonna remember anything about me, then please, remember that I'm a nerd. Um, but like, but like at the core of that, but at the core of that, like, remember, I guess remember like how important knowledge is and
Mm,
how important the truth is and
mm,
how learning more information and learning more truths can contribute to, more freedom and eventual total liberation for us.
mm.
So I get, so like, yes, like, yeah, I want people to remember, like, just how much of a fucking nerd I am, but use that to really know how much learning and how much knowledge and how much truth means. That's what I'll say. God damn
That's actually
it.
beautiful. No, no, no. That's actually very beautiful. Um, the phrase that says knowledge is power is very telling because if you think back to a lot of us with our ancestors, that was held back from us because they knew it was power, right? We were kept from learning how to read and write. My fifth great grandfather was a slave. He died knowing how to read and write, which means he didn't know how in the beginning of his life, probably up until his adulthood, mid adulthood, didn't know how to read and write. And so for us, that is such a huge thing because with that knowledge, we were able to be liberated. With that knowledge, we were able to liberate ourselves further with things like, the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act, because we were able to look at these things and go, okay, so this is how they're doing it, and this is how we need to move. At the beginning of this year, I had a guest on RBN, and his name was Consciously, Professor George Lee. And his phrase that he always says, and I love it, he says, education is elevation.
Hmm.
How in the world do we elevate other people around us and ourselves at the same time? You educate them. You show them the way so that when other people start to falter, you can show them the way as well. And then it lifts everybody. And I think this is one of the reasons why, you have your show on MCSC. The reason why I do what I do, the reason why many people who are in the chat who are also in this space do what they do, the reason why a lot of you who are watching today who are typically anti-imperialist, anti-capitalist, and things like that. You guys constantly are talking to family members and friends and people you meet at the at the stores and at the malls and whatever, because you want to help elevate people. And I honestly think that's an admirable thing. And I just want to thank you for doing that, because people have been lost in the dark and left out in the lurch for far too long.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I just want to, thank you so much for being on here. And you were talking about Commander X, uh,
Yes.
is a political prisoner here in the United States.
Mm-hmm. So Commander X is a former hacktivist, and currently he's in Santa Rita Jail, which is in Northern California, Dublin,
Mhm.
California to be specific, but Northern California. And he's currently being jailed because he's facing charges that are basically a decade old. And the reason why he got those charges is because he helped organize DDoS attacks against the governments of Santa Cruz, against the municipalities of Santa Cruz and the city of Orlando, for their treatment of homeless people and for their treatment of Food Not Bombs, which does nothing but feed people and occasionally spread anarchist literature. So he faces 10-year-old charges relating to those. And March 29th, which is exactly 2 weeks from now, he faces another hearing in his case, where essentially what'll probably happen is they'll negotiate a plea deal, and that's when we're going to try our best to begin mitigation and ensure that he gets a sentence which lets him get out as soon as possible, which hopefully lets him be out by this summer at the latest, because where he is now is he's pushing 60 and he's not in the best health, and jail is just shit for anyone.
It is.
And yeah, so he's already been sick a couple times in jail, and Santa Rita jail sucks, as do all jails, but Santa Rita jail sucks. And yeah, in his header, those are his two dogs, his baby boys, and he loves them with all his heart. Those are his two children. And yeah, if you want any updates on the case, that account is his account, so obviously it hasn't been tweeting anything. But if you go to @FreeCommanderX_ on Twitter, then you'll be able to find any updates on the case, as well as informations for how you can write to him, or like I said, send letters to him, send letters to his commissary if you want, or maybe get in touch with his sister, or get in touch with one of us if you want to write about him or anything like that. And yeah, March 29th is when his hearing is, and that starts at 9 a.m. Pacific time. So if you're in the area and are interested in showing support for Commander X, we'll be doing a protest outside the San Jose District Courthouse, which is where the hearing is scheduled to take place. And that is going to happen at 8:30 Tuesday morning, March 29th, outside the San Jose District Courthouse. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Great. I posted the link to his fundraiser in the chat as well for Commander X, so that we can help this whistleblower. And now you mentioned Orlando. You're meaning Orlando,
Yeah.
Florida.
Yeah, he's actually not a whistleblower. He's an activist, but still a political prisoner nonetheless. But yeah, he was active in Orlando as well.
Okay. All right. So that's where I live in Orlando, Florida. So yes, if anybody who's watching, if you're feeling a little bit generous, if you have it, then you can also go over to here and contribute to his fundraiser. And you know what? Even if you can't contribute, if you can share on your social media, or if you can share, between family members, especially people who are advocates of political prisoners that may not know about Commander X, then that would be good to do too, as well. Because, yeah. And yes, Noli D says, one of many, free Eric Brandt.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, thank you so much for bringing this up, by the way, because this is very important. And, we have to protect our activists because they're putting themselves on the front line to liberate, really. So I appreciate that. Now, where can they find you? Also, anything, final words that you wanted to say? Any shouts out that you want to give?
Hell yeah, I'll give shout outs. Shout out everyone in the chat. Y'all are awesome. Bill, Noli, Lucky. Yeah, that's who I can see in my site. Shout out everyone else who's always chatting and following me around. Propaganda Live, Spicy ICU, Charlie, Jack Sith, Shadowband Refugee. Fuck, I'm gonna forget more people. I apologize. But chatters, y'all are awesome. Y'all know who you are. Shout out Ethan too. Don't want to forget Ethan, Mr. Wilson, of course. I'll and then also shout out my Slow News Day Scoop Gang crew, Steve Poikin and our Base God Tech Ninja, Sleepy Josh. And also shout out my fellow MCSC fam, Fee Pasta over at the Combo Couch, Johnny over at True Rebel Network, Misty and Jesse over at Facts on the Ground, Robbie Yeager, aka Robbie Receipts, Marcellus Wright doing Black Sheep Theory, and I guess Nico House, but but yes, shout out all y'all. And then of course, I also do a show with Comrade Misty called Free the Truth. Oh my God, fuck, Frank Analysis. Thanks for reminding me, Lucky. Shout out Frank Analysis and shout out Political Matrix fam too. Marcus, Cy, E, and L. I'm gonna stop now before I forget anyone else. But yes, I do a show with Comrade Misty called Free the Truth, where we talk about whistleblowers, political prisoners, and persecuted journalists and activists, censorship as well, and just anything pertaining to what you think a show called Free the Truth would talk about. We'll let you know what time for what's the new time we're doing, because obviously Misty is doing her TNT radio show now, so we're gonna have to reschedule that, but we will let you know. You can look out for me on Twitter or Misty at Sarcasm Stardust. Y'all probably already follow her since she's all Twitter famous and stuff. But yeah, but you can follow me on Twitter too. If you search up Gloria Jones, I come up with the hashtag Free Assange next to it. And then of course I'm on Slow News Day too. There's gonna be a break from the morning show this week because Steve and Pasta are moving to Vegas to get a nice little studio for the morning show, which is going to be extended to 3 hours. And that airs 7 to 10 a.m. Pacific time. But we also have our Sunday shows, which air 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. East Coast time. Those are always fun. And other than that, I also have a Hive blog. It's at Zero Eclipse with 2 E's at the end of it. There's some pieces up on there. I haven't written on there in a while, just because I'm already writing so much for school. So, but there are pieces up on there if you want to check that out. It's the link to it is on my Twitter. And yeah, that's everything I can think of to plug. If I forgot anything, then I profusely apologize.
Yo, you were reading off names like you were a rapper at the Source Awards. I'm telling you. You were like, yo, I want to give a shout out to my homie this and this and man, I see you over there.
I love giving shout outs though,
fun.
honestly.
That was fun.
Because I used to, because like, you know, I am and always was a woman of the chat. So like, you know, these people are all my fam. So like I love giving shout outs. And I always feel bad when I forget someone.
Yeah. By the way, I'm not gonna show it here, but I saw you in that basketball uniform in school.
Yes, I did play basketball.
Yo, bowling. That is so cool. The many different faces of Glory Jones is so good to have you here. So good to to have you, in this space to, rub shoulders with you, and okay, I know I'm gonna sound like a goofy old man, but you kind of remind me of my niece. So, you kind of remind me of my niece. And so that's one of the reasons why I was just like, all right, I'm going to share this link with her because I want her to take note. Like, this is Glory. Do you want to do what she does? But yeah, I just appreciate you coming on the show and in spreading your wisdom with those of us here. I want to just let everybody know that in the chat, please make sure to follow Gloria and watch her on Slow News Day. And, don't just you can subscribe to her without unsubscribing from me. Just letting you know that. All right. Just don't unsubscribe from me. You can have us both. You can have it both ways. It's just like hard taco and soft taco. You know what I mean? I can be the soft taco, and Glory can be the crunchy one. Because we all like crunchy. Well, at least I like crunchy tacos. I like steak ones too. And chicken.
Asada is good.
But with lots of tomato. Yeah, with lots of tomato. Anyway, I'm getting hungry here. Once again, if you like my content, if you like to wish to support me further, you can buy me a coffee on Coffee, or you can subscribe to my Patreon. And it's all linked in the description down below. See, I did all the work for you. All you got to do is just go down there and you guys, if you're feeling a little generous. And by the way, make sure to water your plants, including your marijuana plants, because I know some of you guys got some. And make sure to water yourselves by drinking plenty of water. And leave the world better than you found it. What else am I forgetting? Am I forgetting something? Oh, yeah. Smoke them if you got them. Yay.